Ladies and gentlemen, there was a moment when they thought they had you, a moment when the weight of their betrayal, their doubt, their cruelty was supposed to crush you. They whispered behind your back, waiting for the sound of you breaking. But something terrible happened. You didn't break, you didn't collapse. You didn't give them the satisfaction of watching you fall. No, something deep within you woke up. And that is what they never saw coming. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will understand why everything they did to destroy you only made you more powerful. There comes a moment in every life when the weight of the world presses down with the force of 1,000 storms. You feel it, don't you? The betrayal, the loss, the injustice, the quiet, creeping ache of knowing that someone, perhaps many, have sought to break you. It wasn't just a careless wound inflicted in passing. No, this was deliberate, calculated. They saw your strength, your light, and they resented it. Maybe they smiled to your face while sharpening their knives in the dark. Maybe they whispered, plotted, waited for the moment you would stumble, and when you did, oh, how they rejoiced. They wanted to see you weak, they wanted to see you fall apart, to watch the fire in your eyes dim, until there was nothing left but embers of who you used to be. And for a moment, just a moment, you almost gave in. There was a night when the silence was too loud. There was a morning when the weight of getting up felt unbearable. There was a second when you questioned whether you even had the strength to keep fighting. But something inside of you, something ancient, something unbreakable, refused to let go. It stirred, it rose, it awakened. And in that awakening, something terrifying happened. Not to you, but to them. Because you didn't shatter. You didn't crumble beneath the weight of their expectations. You didn't give them the satisfaction of proving them right. Instead, you did something they never anticipated. You endured. You held your ground. And then, slowly, powerfully, you started to rise. They thought you were weak. But what they failed to understand is that suffering does not make a person weak. It refines them. It strips away the unnecessary, the illusions, the lies you once believed about yourself. Every wound they inflicted, every betrayal they delivered, every time they tried to break you, it was nothing more than a sculptor's chisel against the marble of your being. They weren't destroying you, they were shaping you. They thought they were taking from you, when in reality they were giving you something far greater than they could ever comprehend. Because pain has a way of revealing truth. It cuts through the noise, exposing what is real and what is merely a shadow. And once you see, truly see, you can never be blind again. You begin to understand that the world is not as it seemed, that people are not always who they claim to be, that not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. And yet this is not a reason to despair. No, this is a reason to rise higher, to step forward with a quiet, unshakable resolve that no one, not the ones who doubted you, not the ones who betrayed you, not even the ones who left you for dead, will ever hold power over you again. You see, they expected you to remain in the ruins they left behind. They counted on your silence, your submission. They never imagined that you would rebuild, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. But let us take a step back for a moment. Let us consider the minds of those who sought to destroy you. What compels a person to tear another down? Why do they do it? The truth is simple. Fear. They feared you then, and they fear you even more now. Not because you are violent or vengeful. No, that would be too easy. What they fear is your resilience, your ability to absorb the pain they inflicted and turn it into something magnificent. They see it in your eyes now, don't they? That fire, that defiance that says, I am still here. And here is where it all changes. Because at first they delighted in your suffering, but then they began to watch in horror as you refused to be consumed by it. They saw you rising, slowly at first, then steadily, until one day you stood taller than ever before. And that was the moment something terrible happened for them. They lost the power they thought they had over you. They lost their ability to define you, to control your narrative, to make you question your worth. And you gained everything. Because now you understand that no one, not a single soul on this earth, holds dominion over your spirit unless you allow them to. You have walked through the fire, and yet here you stand, unburned, unbowed. And though they may never admit it, they see it, they know it, and it terrifies them. Not because you seek revenge, not because you carry hatred in your heart, but because you are free from their expectations, their judgments, their manipulations. And there is nothing more powerful than a person who has faced the worst and come out the other side unbroken. There are moments in life when you are forced to your knees, beaten down by circumstances you never asked for, by betrayals you never saw coming, by losses so deep they shake the very foundation of who you are. And in those moments, you may wonder if this is it, if this is where you break, where you become nothing more than the wreckage of what once was. That is what they wanted, wasn't it? That is what they expected. They believed that pain would be enough to shatter you, that disappointment would be enough to silence you, that rejection would be enough to erase your will to rise. But something happens when a person reaches their lowest point, something remarkable. The world does not tell you this, but the moment you believe you have lost everything is the moment you become unstoppable. Because once you have nothing left to lose, once you have faced the abyss and still found yourself breathing, you realize that pain no longer controls you. It no longer has the power to dictate your choices, to paralyze you with fear. You step into a new kind of strength, not the kind that boasts or demands recognition, but the kind that is silent, steady, unshakable. The fire they meant to destroy you with becomes the very force that forges you. It burns away the illusions, the need for approval, the desperate grasping for validation. What remains is something pure, something unbreakable. This is the part they never understood. They thought pain would weaken you, but instead it became your teacher. Every hardship, every moment of suffering carved wisdom into your soul. You see the world differently now. You understand things that others do not. Where once you sought acceptance, you now seek truth. Where once you feared loss, you now embrace change. And that is why they are afraid. That is why they whisper behind your back, why they try to diminish your success, why they pretend not to see how far you have come. Because nothing unsettles people more than watching someone they once counted out rise beyond their reach. They told themselves stories about you, stories in which you failed, in which you never recovered, in which you were forever trapped in the pain they inflicted. But the story did not unfold as they imagined. You did not play the role they assigned you. And that terrifies them, because now they must face the truth. You were never weak, you were never small, you were never dependent on their approval. You only needed time to remember who you were before they tried to convince you otherwise. And now that you know, now that you see with unclouded eyes, you have become something they cannot touch. There was a time when their words would have sent you spiraling, when their rejection would have left you questioning your worth. But now their opinions are nothing more than background noise, distant echoes that no longer have the power to reach you. They do not understand how you moved on so effortlessly, how you carry yourself with such peace, such certainty. But that is the secret, isn't it? It wasn't effortless, it wasn't easy, it was war. A war fought in silence, in the depths of your own mind, in the countless nights spent battling doubts they never knew existed. They only see the aftermath, the unshakable version of you that emerged from the fire. And what unsettles them most is that you did not seek revenge. You did not chase them down, did not demand apologies, did not waste your energy trying to prove them wrong. No, you did something far more devastating. You let them go. You walked away, not in defeat, but in victory, because you understood something they never will, that true power is not found in the need to retaliate. True power is found in indifference, in the quiet certainty that their presence is no longer required in your story. They expected rage. They expected you to fight, to scream, to demand recognition. Instead, you disappeared from their world entirely, rising so far beyond their reach that they became irrelevant. And that, more than anything, is what they cannot stand. Not that you were hurt, not that you suffered, but that you no longer care. Because while they remain trapped in the same cycles, playing the same games, seeking the same hollow victories, you have ascended to a different plane entirely. You have stepped into a life they swore you would never have, a life built not on their approval, but on your own unwavering belief in yourself. And now they watch, from a distance, from the shadows. They watch as you continue to rise, powerless to stop it, powerless to touch the peace you have built. They once thought they had the power to break you, but something terrible happened. You won. There is something they don't want you to see, something they hope you never realize. It is not hidden in books or whispered in secret places. It is right in front of you, yet they distract you so you never notice. They keep you occupied with trivial things, feeding you doubts, convincing you that you are not enough, that you are falling behind, that you should be afraid. But the truth, the one they fear most, is this: you were never powerless. You were never at their mercy. They only made you believe that you were. The world has a way of distorting vision, making you look everywhere except where it matters most. They tell you to chase approval, to seek validation, to measure your worth by standards you never agreed to. They convince you that if you are not accepted, you have failed. If you are not admired, you are invisible. And so you spend years, perhaps decades, trying to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you, trying to earn the respect of people who were never meant to understand you. But something happens when you stop searching outward and begin looking within. You start to see clearly. You begin to understand that rejection was never a curse but a blessing, that every door that closed was protecting you from a life not meant for you. And the more you see, the more you realize how much time was wasted seeking approval from those who never even valued themselves. The moment you awaken to this truth, everything changes. The fears that once held you hostage lose their grip. The opinions that once dictated your choices become meaningless, and the people who tried to keep you small suddenly seem so far beneath you that their voices no longer reach. They wanted you blind, distracted, doubtful, but you see now, don't you? You see that every setback, every disappointment, every painful chapter was not a sign of your weakness, but a test of your strength. And you passed. You became something they never expected. Untouchable. Not in arrogance, not in cruelty, but in the quiet, immovable certainty of who you are. That is what unsettles them the most. Not your success, not your resilience, but your unshakable knowledge that you no longer need them. They cannot manipulate someone who no longer seeks their approval. They cannot control someone who does not fear their rejection. And so they watch, confused, unsettled. They whisper among themselves, wondering how you managed to rise despite everything they did to keep you down. They search for cracks in your armor, desperate to believe that you are still the person they once knew, the person who cared too much, who bent too easily, who lived for their validation. But that person no longer exists. That person was burned away in the fire they created. What remains is something beyond their understanding, a presence so strong, so sure, that it no longer seeks to prove anything to anyone. That is true power. Not in seeking revenge, not in shouting your worth from the rooftops, but in the quiet, effortless way you continue forward, untouched by their expectations, unmoved by their attempts to pull you back. They will never admit it, but they regret underestimating you. They regret every moment they assumed you would stay broken, every time they dismissed you, every opportunity they had to stand with you, but chose instead to stand against you. They regret it, not because they have changed, but because they now realize they bet against the wrong person. But none of that matters anymore, does it? Their regret does not serve you, their recognition does not fulfill you, because you no longer move for them. You no longer rise for their applause. You rise because it is in your nature to do so. Because even when they try to destroy you, something inside refused to break. And so you walk forward, not looking back, not slowing down. And they are left in the shadows, watching as you step into a life they once swore you would never have. So let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them wonder how you survived. Let them watch as you step into the life they swore you'd never have. Because, my dear listener, they tried to destroy you. But something terrible happened. You won.